Saw in water, streets turn to oceans. One bank catches fire.
We are not ruling out the possibility that this may have been struck by lightning.
Another bank is flooded. Downtown Nassau overrun with water. No corner left dry overnight. A double bogey. The LPGA tournament tee-off times are stopped as the Pro-Am tournament is canceled.
It screwed up a lot of plans.
And now this morning, emergency vehicles hit the streets. Pinewood residents wake up to a new flood. Water bubbles up on Soldier Road. Residents struggle just to get out of their homes. Kids take the day off, hit the new makeshift pools in Pinewood, and ZNS News was there for every piece of the action.
Now in HD. ZNS Network presents The Bahamas Tonight. This segment of the news is brought to you by BTC, powered by Lime.
Rain pounded the capital overnight, dumping as much as 15 inches of water, and in some of the worst cases, leaving stranded drivers and flooded homes.
Eastern New Providence got the worst of it from all accounts, and just when school will resume is still uncertain.
And the rain isn't over quite yet.
We head straight over to Chief Meteorologist Basil Dean with the latest. Basil?
Well, thank you, Keisha and Condeno. In our first look at whether that mid-level trough, which dumped unprecedented rains over parts of the capital, is now lifting towards the north and east and should bring some relief to the capital tonight and tomorrow, but there will still be some residual showers hanging around. Outside of our studios just now, we have mostly cloudy skies, your temperature 79 degrees, relative humidity 79%, your winds out of the southeast at 8 knots, barometric pressure 1,014.3 millibars. That's about 29.95 inches, and it is steady. But stay tuned. Temperatures around the family of islands, travel and boating forecast is still to come.
Well, the rain started soaking the capital last night.
Our crew, Janae Noel Ferguson and Karen Miller, hit the streets late last night as the rain came down. Take a look.
Nearly 5 hours of rainfall plummeted the island of New Providence. Residents in various pockets of the island, especially in the eastern areas, experienced massive flooding that trapped them in their homes, stalled out their vehicles, and washed away many of their possessions. Shortly after 10 p.m. last evening, our ZNS News team took to the streets where surprisingly many people were still on the streets, but many of their routes were cut short as the copious amounts of water rose above tire level and for many of them up to their car windows. In the downtown Bay Street area, many of the stores experienced flooding. We stopped at Cabinet Office expecting to speak with NEMA officials, but their offices were closed. Over at the Commonwealth Bank on Bay Street, we watched the water level continue to rise on the inside of the building. And further east, many persons were seen walking the roads, shoes in hand, with water reaching them above the knees. There was also flooding in the Fox Hill Road and Prince Charles area, where many persons were seen waiting by nearby gas stations to see if the water would subside, but after hours it did not. In the Winton area, it was hard to tell if we were on a beach or what used to be a roadway. In front of the Seagrapes shopping plaza, dozens of cars were stalled out with persons helplessly waiting for some kind of assistance. Many persons we spoke to said the change in weather conditions took them all by surprise, and driving further east, it soon became impassable as dozens of cars simply floated by. Some persons were in those vehicles calling out for help. We soon met up with firefighters on the road who attempted to push some of the vehicles out of the way. They told us that there was not much they can do as the rising water levels made it near impossible to assist residents. On many occasions, our news team was fearful that we would also stall out, and we also witnessed a few traffic accidents on the road where it appeared that many persons were simply trying to get out of the way of the water. These residents we spoke to around 2 a.m. this morning told us that they've never experienced anything like this before.
9:30 we started to take water inside of the house, and you're inside of the house, it's like 4 feet of water. through the house. I have a swimming pool that is underground. It's all underwater. There's like probably 4 houses in my area that is totally underwater.
We got up around 11 o'clock just to check. 10:59, 10:41. The water meet me to my ankle in the bedroom. When we got out in the front, the water was pouring into the front door and the back door. The water is in every room in this house. Every room. The water is the crown molding from the floor. All the furniture's messed up. We can't open the back door nor the front door. We have to stop them with towels because the water coming in through the front and the back, and the yard is completely flooded. Miss, this is unreal. I wish y'all could have come and see this. This is unreal. And we still bailing. We done bail over 300 gallons of water out my house.
Well, I have called the Defense Force. I've also called the NEMA. Nobody was the NEMA office. I've also tried to call the airport to find out what the radar is showing. If we're going to have any more rain, do I get the police to come and evacuate us out of the home?
Now, it is expected that officials from the various agencies would be out this morning to help those trapped in their homes or still in need of assistance. We'll continue to follow the story this morning as it develops. Janae Noel Ferguson, ZNS Network News.
Now, the flooding caused by last night's pouring rains may be dry now, but that was not the case in some low-lying areas such as Pinewood Gardens.
Our Andrew Knowles was in that area today to see just how residents fared.
You would think a few hours of sunshine would make the difference, but take a look at this Pinewood Gardens neighborhood, inundated. And as you can imagine, the water wasn't only limited to the streets and to yards, but to homes as well.
It's really, really bad this time. We are really, really hurting in Pinewood Garden.
I feel bad because we buy a home but we can't enjoy. The water just keep coming in.
Anne-Marie Forbes is just one of many Pinewood Garden residents whose home was flooded from Tuesday night's drenching downpours.
I was just laying down and my husband come tapping and shows me, I see the water. I said, see the water? And the water just ran like the water just coming full force.
And today, she's still bailing out water. Over at Eddie Roll's house, the water level is even higher, and her frustration greater.
You get up in the nighttime, you getting in water, you putting your feet inside water. Come on, it's ridiculous and it's frustrating. You know, you can't go to work because your house is flooded. Electricity is off. It's nothing you can do. Who is going to help us?
As we journeyed through the community, street after street, the picture became even more grim. Some residents were on the outside, starting the mammoth task of cleaning up. Drivers tried their best to navigate through flood waters, which forced them to debate every turn. And then there were those whose luck simply ran out. But for residents of the low-lying area, flooding isn't an uncommon problem. While these children were more curious than concerned, some residents used sandbags and others improvised, desperate to keep the water at bay. The rain not only impacted residents, but businesses as well. Owner of the Old Trail liquor store, Godfrey Brown, was one of them.
I have so much problem with this water here. I had to buy my own machine because the government never sent no one to even clean it. So I took out my time, my $10,000, and every time I get clean, trying to get the water out.
And as the hurricane season quickly approaches, more flooding can be expected. As a measure of preparedness, Maurice Winters says residents should
to get a lot of sandbags and stuff and put in the back of the house. So when something like this occur again, we'll be able to just come back to front and we'll be okay.
Try to get some drainage in here, some kind of drainage. Something has to get going in Pinewood Garden. Because not only me one is hurting, everybody's hurting. I had a friend sleeping in his bus. Him and his girlfriend is sleeping in the bus. The whole house is underwater. We are hurting in Pinewood.
Now, I can certainly tell you one thing residents in these flood-prone areas are praying for is no more rain. Andrew Knowles, ZNS Network News.
Well, a fire at one of Commonwealth Bank's branches was among 2 back-to-back incidents officials dealt with overnight. The bank's Thompson Boulevard and East Bay Street offices are closed temporarily. Altaviz Manais reports tonight on what happened and why the bank's president describes the incident as unusual.
ZNS News was first on the scene minutes after 7 p.m. Tuesday when 3 fire trucks arrived at Commonwealth Bank's Oaksfield branch. And when they got there, they discovered smoke billowing from the ceiling. While several of the firefighters worked on the roof, some of them geared up at the entrance to go inside to see the damage sustained. Now, the firemen even had to use a generator. Bahamas Electricity Corporation officials quickly came in to assist as well. Police didn't waste any time to cordon off the area to ensure safety for all. Firefighters then started to extinguish the fire from the inside. Bank officials later arrived on the scene to view the extent of the damage. Director of the Police Fire Services Division, Superintendent Walter Evans, also went inside. He spoke with us a few minutes later.
Approximately 6 officers made their way onto the roof, and we had the remaining officers. They formed an interior attack on the inside of this facility. The fire was discovered in the ceiling area, and it was extinguished. However, the interior of the bank has a significant amount of smoke damage, and there's a moderate amount of water damage. And at this stage, we do not have a cause for this fire.
We returned here to Commonwealth Bank's Thompson Boulevard headquarters right before noon on Wednesday. You can still smell some of the smoke in the air. We understand that this branch will be temporarily closed for a couple of days. We got more information from the president of Commonwealth Bank, Ian Jennings.
There's a lot of chemical residue in the air, not really smoke, but it's difficult to go into the branch to do the assessment at the moment, and we're still waiting for the police to finalise their assessment. So again, that branch has been closed. Today we expect it will be closed tomorrow, and we will make a further update once we can get a proper damage assessment as to the extent as to the length of the closure.
Garbage bags and used boxes were seen outside Commonwealth Bank's East Bay Street branch Wednesday. Mr. Jennings confirmed that the first floor experienced severe flooding.
That branch is closed today, but we're fortunate there's no electrical damage or anything like that, so it's just a matter of cleaning up, and we fully expect that branch to be open tomorrow as normal.
Commonwealth Bank's president also noted that staff from both branches have already been redeployed. Commonwealth Bank also executed its disaster preparedness plan. In fact, Mr. Jennings said officials will conduct a simulation sometime next week. Altaviz Munnings for the ZNS News Network.
BTC says its Poinciana Drive location is now on generator power due to an issue within the building housing transformers belonging to the Bahamas Electricity Corporation. BTC personnel noticed smoke coming from the building, which houses BEC's low-voltage transformers, which supply power to that building. BEC and the fire department were called in immediately, according to BTC officials. It was determined that wires coming from the building were damaged, which resulted in the loss of commercial power. But BTC's generator, according to the company, kicked in as soon as power was lost. Due to the quick response of the generator, no services have been interrupted and all services continue to remain intact. The facility will remain on full generator backup until BEC is able to rectify the problem.
Well, the National Emergency Management Agency held a press conference late this afternoon following the floods.
NEMA's director, Stephen Russell, is concerned about the environmental hazards associated with the storm.
Of course, centipedes, among other things, are already seen crawling about some persons' homes. So we're going to urge persons to exercise extreme caution where they lay or where they would stay in their homes. If they're not comfortable in their homes, well, first of all, try and get some insecticide and spray out your homes, particularly all around your windows, your window sills, and your door thresholds.
Now, Ministry of Works officials also assessing flooding in eastern New Providence.
Civil engineer Henry Moxie telling reporters today that they will be developing its plan to, or the ministry's plan to assess the 5,000 drainage wells across the capital.
Some that we have started, but unfortunately this weather has exacerbated the situation. But we also mobilize our crews immediately into areas that we could have brought some relief to. But other areas, we are just basically now trying to strategize how best we can move tremendous volumes of water.
One resident of Nassau Village is requesting shelter since the storm, and there are many more people out there tonight recovering from the storm.
Social Services Representative Rensworth Butler offers this advice for Bahamians still reeling from the torrential rain.
We found in some areas there was significant damage, and persons would be needing assistance. Social Services is prepared to assist once they are assessed. In order for a person to be assessed, they would need to visit the community support division, and where they would be able to get a social worker, to see a social worker, where they can be assessed and they can be assisted.
Well, the rain even put a stop to the major Ladies Professional Golf Association Pro-Am event set for today. Organizers hope to have a full event over this weekend, and now that could be up in the air. More on how sports around the capital were affected coming up later on in ZNS Total Sports.
Prime Minister the Right Honorable Perry Christie told the House of Assembly this morning that all of the country's agencies responded to the unprecedented overnight floods, and even though the assessment is ongoing, the Prime Minister says he'll soon communicate his findings to Parliament. He added that the Bahamas possesses a very peculiar situation when it comes to disasters and risk.
I have tried to remind listeners, as I try to remind Bahamians, there is no country that we could model ourselves after in this region and even in this hemisphere. That the excessive difficulties our country will have in being able to install and maintain the infrastructure that is so necessary and vital to development of our country, because of the necessity to duplicate infrastructure island by island. We're not talking about Jamaica, we're not talking about Grenada, St. Lucia, all the others where you can drive from one end to the next. We're talking about an island nation separated by expanses of people, and it becomes exceedingly difficult in times of natural disaster for us to recognize that when we're speaking of one island, we're speaking of the same impact on neighboring islands in our Commonwealth.
Well, still to come tonight, Charles Fisher on the story as the LPGA tries to deal with the rain. Get the full Tea Talk coming up in the ZNS Total Sports package. You're watching the Bahamas Tonight.
This portion of the news is brought to you by Shell Helix Ultra. Performance you can see.